Hey guys, so in today's video, I'm going to go over my 2020 NBA mock draft. Before we start though, this video was pretty hard to make, so please leave a like. Also, if you are new, then please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year, and it just really helped me out. Alright, so with the first overall pick in the draft, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves will draft Anthony Edwards. Now, I don't want to say this was an easy decision because there is a lot of talent in this draft, but Anthony Edwards is definitely going to be drafted by the Timberwolves. My reasons are, he fits best in their system, him being an athletic shooting guard that can get to the rim easily, and more importantly, he is the most talented player in the draft, so it makes sense that he would go first overall. Now, let's move on. Okay, so at the second overall pick, I think the Golden State Warriors will draft James Wiseman. Now, I know most people actually have Lamelo going second overall, but he's a point guard and the Warriors already have Steph, so there's no point in drafting another point guard. James Wiseman, on the other hand, is a center, which not only do the Warriors not have, they actually need, and I mean need, a center. In addition, James Wiseman has a ton of potential and could end up being the next Joel Embiid. In the end, I think the Warriors should without a doubt draft James Wiseman. Now let's move on to the third overall pick. Now, at the third overall pick, I think the Charlotte Hornets will draft Lamelo Ball. So this one was pretty obvious considering Lamelo's way better than anyone else left in the draft, so he would definitely get selected here. Now, I know the Hornets already have two very solid guards, them being Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham, but if the Hornets are willing to keep Terry freaking Rozier over LaMelo Ball, then there is something seriously wrong with them. I shouldn't even have to explain. End of discussion. So one thing I just want to clarify, the Hornets could select Obi Toppin, that wouldn't really surprise me, but given the talent margin between him and LaMelo, I don't think this is really a question. Also, if you want a more detailed explanation, the Hornets selected two forwards in the past two drafts, so I don't think they would want to draft another one this year. Now let's move on. Okay, so with the fourth overall pick in the draft, I think the Chicago Bulls will draft Obi Toppin. So to be honest, this wasn't an easy decision. For starters, Obi wouldn't fit that well in the Bulls system since he's a power forward, his rebound numbers aren't great, and he's not the best defender. However, I do think the Bulls will take the risk, given Obi's tremendous upside and how they can figure out a way to put him into their system, given his great shooting stroke. Also, I feel like Obi is better than the other prospects at this point, so I think he will be selected. It's still pretty unclear though, and I can see the Bulls drafting someone else. I guess we'll just have to wait for draft night. Alright, so with the fifth overall pick in the draft, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers will draft Deni Avidja. So the main reason I think the Cavs will select Deni is because the Cavs really need a wing player right about now, and he is the best wing in the draft at this point. Also, since the Cavs have a solid player at every other position, I don't think they will select anyone other than a small forward. Now I would like to go more in depth about Deni and why he's perfect for the Cavs. So Deni has been showing potential of a very solid and even good 3-point shot. Also, he has great basketball IQ, which is a good thing to have in a young player. These are two things that will go perfectly in the Cavs system, which is why I think they will draft him with the 5th overall pick. Okay, now with the 6th overall pick, I think the Atlanta Hawks will draft Oyenka Okungwu. So I think the main reason the Hawks would want to draft Okungwu is because of his rim protection and overall defense, since these are things the Hawks struggled greatly in last year. Defense specifically. You see, drafting a great defensive prospect like Okungwu can help turn this around and even make the Hawks pretty decent defensively. Not to mention, Okungwu has a great offensive upside with a 7-foot wingspan, as in he can develop into a great offensive player. That will take some time though, so they'll have to be patient. Overall, just an extremely promising prospect who I think will get drafted by the Hawks. Alright, now with the 7th overall pick in the draft, I think the Detroit Pistons will draft Killian Hayes. So given the fact that the Detroit Pistons are about to start rebuilding, selecting a young point guard with tremendous offensive upside only makes sense. Don't get me wrong, Killian probably isn't going to have a very strong defensive game at the start of his career, but he is 6'5" with a 6'9" wingspan, so he can develop into a great defensive talent. So basically what I'm trying to say with all this is that Killian has a ton of potential and can develop into a great player on both sides of the court. If the Pistons can pick him at this point, I think they would be dumb not to. Now let's move on. Okay, so with the 8th overall pick, I think the New York Knicks will draft Tyrese Haliburton. To be honest, I'm actually pretty happy we're going to get Tyrese, and I think he will become a very solid point guard. Not to mention he is a great shooter, which will go perfectly with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett's game. And another good thing about Tyrese is that he plays point guard, and no offense to the GOAT Frank Ntilikina, but the Knicks don't really have a good point guard right now, which is why Tyrese is perfect for us. Don't get me wrong, there's still many other good players that the Knicks could draft, so I wouldn't be surprised if they pick someone else, but in my opinion, Tyrese is the best option right now, so in my mock draft, the Knicks are selecting him. Now let's go on to the next pick. Alright, now with the 9th overall pick, I think the Washington Wizards will select Isaac Okoro. So I know that some people may not think that Isaac is a top 10 player since he was injured for part of the season and he wasn't exactly a superstar, and you would be right, but given the amount of potential he has and tremendous upside, I think the Wizards should draft him. Not to mention Isaac is a phenomenal defender, which the Wizards really need right now after being terrible defensively last year. Overall, I think it is a pretty easy decision for the Wizards, so let's just move on. Finally, with the 10th overall pick in the draft, I think the Phoenix Suns will draft Devin Vassell. To be honest, I feel like Devin is the kind of guy who would fit in on every team, so I don't really have to talk about him fitting in on the Suns system. But if you want to know, he is a great shooter, which goes perfectly with DeAndre Ayton's game, and he is a great defender, which is great for the Suns, since they really have no one to guard the 2 through 4 positions right now, so that'll be his job. Overall, I feel like this is just a great player to draft, so I expect the Suns to select him with the 10th overall pick. Alright guys, that just about wraps it up. If you liked the video, then please leave a like. Also, if you are new, then please subscribe. It really helped me out. And that's it. Cue the outro.